My friend, in life we often try to fix everything outside us, but forget the one place where true peace begins, within. When storms rise in the mind, we run everywhere searching for shelter, yet the safest place is the one we rarely visit, our own stillness. The truth is, calmness is not something we acquire, it is something we uncover. It already exists inside us, buried under layers of stress, hurry, fear, and noise. Calmness is a choice we must make intentionally. It begins with a simple pause. Have you ever noticed that even a single conscious breath can shift an entire mood? Because when we breathe slowly, the mind stops rushing. When the mind stops rushing, clarity returns. And with clarity, every situation becomes manageable. We must remind ourselves that life will not always flow the way we want. People will misunderstand us. Circumstances will test us. Unexpected events will shake us. But we don't have to let these things control our inner state. The real strength of a person is not measured by how loud they speak, but by how calmly they respond. To stay calm is not weakness, it is mastery. It means you have learned to rise above the chaos instead of drowning in it. It means you value your peace more than someone else's opinion. It means you know that reacting impulsively only multiplies the problem, while responding mindfully dissolves it. Calming techniques are not complicated. They are simple practices we often ignore: breathing deeply, observing thoughts without fighting them, grounding ourselves in the present, and reconnecting with gratitude. When we develop these habits, life may still be challenging, but we become unshakable. The idea that inner calm already exists within us is something many people hear, but rarely understand deeply. We often believe peace is something we must search for in the outside world. Through perfect circumstances, the right people, or an ideal environment. But true calm is not found in the world. It is found in our awareness. When we feel stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, we assume that the noise outside is responsible. Yet if that were true, then everyone facing the same situation would feel the same way. Two people can be in identical circumstances, one panicking, the other completely steady. The difference is not the situation, it is the inner space they have built within themselves. Calmness is not something we add to our lives like an external upgrade. It is something we reveal by peeling away everything that hides it. From childhood, we are trained to react quickly, to speak instantly, judge instantly, decide instantly. This habit makes our mind restless. Over time, layers of fear, expectations, pressure, and constant mental traffic accumulate around our natural stillness. Just like clouds cover the sun, these layers cover our calm, but the sun never disappears. It only gets hidden for a while. In the same way, our peace never leaves us. It only gets overshadowed by a busy mind. When we understand this, we stop searching for calm outside and start looking within. And this shift is powerful because it teaches us that we are not helpless against life's storms. We are simply disconnected from our inner anchor. To uncover this calm, we must learn to pause. A pause is not inactivity, it is inner intelligence. When you pause, you step out of the autopilot mode that keeps you trapped in unnecessary reactions. You create a gap between stimulus and response. In that gap, your inner calm gets a chance to rise. The more you practice pausing, the more you realize that calm is not a distant place. It is your default state, waiting to be accessed. In moments of stress, instead of saying, "I need to calm down," remind yourself, "I need to return to my calm." This simple change in wording shifts your internal energy. It reminds you that calmness is not something to chase. It is something to return to. Another important truth is that inner calm is strengthened, not found. Just like a muscle becomes strong through consistent training, inner peace becomes accessible through consistent awareness. When you observe your thoughts without instantly reacting, when you breathe consciously even for a few seconds, when you choose silence over unnecessary argument, you are strengthening your connection to your inner calm. Every gentle choice you make becomes a thread that stitches you back to your center. With time, these threads weave a strong inner foundation that situations cannot easily shake. When you start experiencing calm from within, the world feels different. Problems still exist, but they stop dominating your mind. People may still behave unpredictably, but they no longer control your emotions. You become more thoughtful, more grounded, more present. This inner calm becomes a silent companion that travels with you everywhere, into your relationships, your work, and your challenges. And slowly, you realize something profound: peace was never missing. It was always there, quietly waiting for you to return. A single conscious breath has the power to shift your emotions, because breathing is the bridge between your body and your mind. Most of the time, we breathe without awareness, fast, shallow, and rushed, matching the speed of our thoughts. When the mind is running, the breath runs with it. When worries increase, the breath becomes tight. When fear rises, the breath becomes uneven. This connection means that the moment you change your breath, you change the entire internal atmosphere. A conscious breath sends a message to the mind that it no longer needs to panic, rush, or fight. It signals safety. It creates space where stress was choking you. It invites clarity into a mind that was clouded by noise. The power of a conscious breath lies in its simplicity. You don't need a peaceful room, a quiet morning, or perfect conditions. You just need awareness. Think of a moment when you felt overwhelmed, your thoughts circling, your heart beating fast, your mind jumping from one worry to another. In such moments, reasoning doesn't work. Advice doesn't work. Trying to control the mind doesn't work. But one slow, deep breath does. It interrupts the emotional storm. It slows the racing mind. It reconnects you to the present moment. That single breath becomes like a calm hand placed gently on your shoulder, reminding you that you are safe, that you are capable, that you are still in control. Breathing consciously also pulls your attention away from the mental chaos and brings it back into the body. You cannot take a slow breath and worry at the exact same second with the same intensity. One has to give way. When you direct the mind toward the breath, the restless thoughts lose their fuel. They begin to fade because the mind cannot fully occupy two spaces at once. This shift is what brings peace. The mind pauses its constant commentary, even if just for a moment. And often, a moment is all you need to step out of panic and into clarity. Another beautiful aspect of a conscious breath is that it brings you back to reality. Most of our stress doesn't come from what is happening now. It comes from what we fear might happen, or what we regret has already happened. But the breath only exists in the present. You cannot breathe for yesterday or tomorrow. When you follow a deep breath, you are automatically pulled back into the present moment, where life is simpler, clearer, and more manageable. This grounding prevents your imagination from dragging you into unnecessary suffering. A conscious breath also resets your energy. When you inhale slowly, you invite calmness into your system. When you exhale deeply, you release tension that your body has been holding without your awareness. If you pay attention, you will realize how much tightness your shoulders, jaw, and chest store throughout the day. A mindful breath softens all of this. It becomes a small act of healing, a small act of returning to yourself. With practice, a single conscious breath can become your instant tool of balance. In an argument, it stops you from saying something hurtful. In moments of fear, it stops you from spiraling. In confusion, it opens a window of clarity. And the more you use this technique, the more naturally your body turns to it. Eventually, the breath becomes your closest friend, silent, supportive, always available. It won't solve your problems, but it will give you the calmness and clarity you need to solve them yourself. An intentional pause may seem like the smallest act, yet it carries within it the power to transform the way you think, feel, and respond. Most people live their lives on autopilot, reacting instantly to every situation, every comment, every emotion. This habit makes the mind restless, quick to judge, quick to panic, quick to assume the worst. When you don't pause, you don't give yourself the space to understand what is truly happening. You only react to the surface level of the moment. And reactions that come without awareness often create more chaos than the original problem. But when you consciously pause before responding, you take back control of your inner world. A pause is like pressing the reset button of the mind. It interrupts the chain of emotional reactions that usually lead to regret. Think of all the times you said something out of anger and wished you could take it back. Think of moments where you made a decision in stress and later realized you didn't think it through. In those situations, what was missing was not intelligence or capability. It was the simple act of pausing. When you pause, even for a few seconds, you give your mind a chance to breathe, to settle, to see things clearly. It is like wiping fog off a mirror. Suddenly the reflection becomes sharp. The beauty of pausing is that it allows your awareness to catch up with your emotions. Emotions rise quickly, but awareness moves slowly unless you intentionally bring it forward. When something happens, a harsh word, a disappointment, a sudden change, your emotions respond almost instantly. If you don't pause, those emotions take the lead and they drag you wherever they want. But when you pause, awareness steps in and gently places a hand on the emotion, guiding it instead of being ruled by it. This small act saves you from unnecessary pain and unnecessary reactions. Pausing also gives space for understanding. Instead of reacting to someone's words, you start perceiving their intention. Instead of assuming the worst, you begin to see the situation as it truly is. When you pause, you ask yourself, is my reaction coming from the present moment or from old fears? Am I understanding this correctly or just responding out of habit? These inner questions lead to clarity. They separate the reality of the moment from the stories the mind creates. A pause creates a distance between you and your automatic patterns, and in that distance, wisdom grows. Another powerful aspect of pausing is that it breaks the emotional momentum. Stress gains speed the more you feed it. Anger grows stronger the more you indulge it. Worry becomes heavier the more you follow it. But when you pause, the momentum stops. You interrupt the emotional current before it sweeps you away. This interruption gives you the power to shift your energy, to choose a calmer response, to respond from maturity instead of impulse. The pause is also a reminder that you are not powerless over your reactions. Many people think their emotions define them, or that their anger, fear, or frustration are uncontrollable forces. But when you practice pausing, you experience firsthand that you can slow down your mind. You can choose silence over impulsiveness. You can choose understanding over conflict. You can choose calmness over chaos. And with each pause you take, you strengthen this inner mastery. Over time, the intentional pause becomes a natural habit. You begin to respond with thoughtfulness instead of tension. You start to observe your emotions instead of being controlled by them. You realize that calmness is not found in running faster. It is found in learning when to slow down. And this simple pause becomes the doorway to a more peaceful, grounded, and emotionally balanced life. Life will always present challenges, unexpected situations, sudden disappointments, misunderstandings, delays, and moments where nothing seems to work in your favor. These moments are unavoidable, but losing your inner peace in front of them is optional. The real test of strength is not whether life treats you gently, but whether you can remain centered even when life becomes unpredictable. When you understand that challenges are a normal part of the human experience, you stop treating every inconvenience as a threat. Instead, you begin to see each situation as an opportunity to strengthen your inner stability. Inner peace is not built in the absence of problems. It is built in the presence of them. Just as muscles grow when they are challenged by resistance, inner strength grows when the mind learns to remain steady in moments of pressure. Many people keep waiting for the perfect day when everything will align, but that day rarely arrives. If your peace depends on life being perfect, you will spend most of your life feeling disappointed. But if your peace depends on your ability to stay grounded regardless of what is happening outside, then you become unshakable. This shift turns you from someone who reacts to life into someone who responds with clarity. The truth is, most of our stress does not come from the situation itself, but from our interpretation of it. Two people can experience the same setback. One loses sleep over it, the other takes a deep breath and moves forward. The situation is identical, but the inner response is different. When you understand this, you begin to focus less on controlling the world and more on controlling your mind. You realize that the problem is not the noise outside, but the turbulence inside. And the moment you calm the inner turbulence, the outside situation feels easier to handle. Another important aspect is accepting that life's challenges are temporary. Nothing lasts forever. Not joy, not pain, not stress, not comfort. When you remember the temporary nature of every situation, you stop overreacting. You stop assuming that one difficulty defines your entire journey. You remind yourself that just as seasons change, your circumstances will shift too. This perspective gives you the courage to move through difficulties with patience rather than panic. Staying calm during challenges also allows you to see solutions more clearly. A stressed mind exaggerates problems, but a calm mind breaks them down. A worried mind imagines worst-case scenarios, but a steady mind looks for the next step. Calmness does not mean ignoring the problem. It means giving yourself the mental space to handle it with intelligence. Many of the worst decisions people make come from moments of emotional turbulence. But when you choose peace, even a difficult situation becomes manageable because you are approaching it with clarity instead of chaos. Remaining peaceful also protects your relationships. When you lose your calm, you often say things you don't mean or take out your frustration on people who did nothing wrong. But when you stay centered, you prevent your inner storm from spilling into your outer world. You respond with understanding, patience, and maturity, qualities that strengthen your connections instead of damaging them. Your calmness becomes a source of comfort, not only for you, but for those around you. Over time, you come to understand a powerful truth. Life's challenges may be inevitable, but suffering is not. Stress may knock on your door, but you don't have to invite it inside. Problems may appear, but they don't have to disturb your inner harmony. And when you learn to maintain peace in the middle of chaos, you discover a strength within yourself that life cannot shake. Strength is often misunderstood. Many people think strength is loud, raised voices, aggressive reactions, sharp words, or dominating energy. But true strength is quiet. True strength is the ability to remain calm when the situation tries to provoke you. It is the power to hold your center even when everything around you pushes you toward anger, fear, or frustration, calmness reflects mastery, not weakness. It shows that you understand yourself deeply enough to choose your response instead of being dragged around by emotions. A person who can stay calm in chaos is far more powerful than someone who can shout the loudest in an argument. When you remain calm, you send a message to your mind that you are in control. You are telling your emotions, you can rise, but you cannot rule me. Calmness creates a space between your emotions and your actions. You may feel anger, but you don't act in anger. You may feel frustration, but you don't let frustration speak for you. This emotional discipline prevents you from creating unnecessary damage, whether in relationships, decisions, or your own mental state. Many people regret what they said or did in moments of emotional heat. But calmness protects you from becoming a prisoner of impulsive reactions. Remaining calm also reflects immense confidence. When someone is secure within themselves, they don't need to prove anything. They don't need to defend their ego at every moment. They don't need validation through arguments. Calmness shows that your worth does not depend on external approval. You know who you are, and no situation or person can shake that. A calm person is not easily threatened because they are not driven by insecurity. When your inner foundation is strong, the outer noise loses its power over you. Another important aspect of calmness is clarity. Emotions like anger, fear, or stress cloud the mind. They distort perception. They make you exaggerate problems, assume the worst, or react based on past wounds. But calmness clears the fog. It helps you see the situation as it actually is, not as your emotions make it appear. Calmness brings wisdom. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting blindly. This clarity often leads to better decisions, better solutions, and better outcomes. Calmness is also a sign of maturity. A child reacts instantly to discomfort, but a mature mind pauses, processes, and responds with intelligence. When you stay calm, you rise above the childish need to react to every trigger. You show self-control. You show growth you show that you have learned to handle life with grace instead of aggression. This maturity inspires trust. People feel safer around someone who is calm because they know this person won't explode unpredictably. Calmness creates stability not only within you but around you. In moments of conflict, calmness is like a soft light. It cools the fire. When you remain calm, you de-escalate tension. You give others permission to calm down too. Your composed energy influences the room. People are more likely to listen to you, respect you, and cooperate with you because calmness creates an atmosphere of understanding rather than confrontation. Even in leadership, the most effective leaders are not the ones who intimidate others, but the ones who stay steady under pressure. Over time, calmness becomes your greatest power. It shields you from emotional storms, guides you through difficulties, and strengthens your relationships. It makes your mind sharper, your heart lighter, and your life more peaceful. Being calm does not mean you don't feel emotions. It means emotions don't control you. And when you reach that level of inner control, you become truly powerful. Reacting impulsively is one of the quickest ways to deepen a problem, while responding mindfully is one of the surest ways to dissolve it. When something upsets you, the mind wants to act immediately. It pushes you to speak without thinking, to decide without understanding, or to assume without clarity. This impulse often comes from emotional momentum, anger, fear, irritation, or hurt rising inside you and demanding expression. But reacting from that emotional surge rarely leads to anything helpful. It usually complicates the situation, triggers conflicts, damages relationships, or leaves you with regret. When you understand this, you begin to see the immense wisdom in slowing down before you respond. A mindful response begins with awareness. It starts when you notice what is happening inside you, your breath quickening, your thoughts speeding up, your heart tightening. In that moment, you have a choice to allow the emotion to take over or to step back and observe. When you choose observation, you break the chain reaction. You stop feeding the emotion with your attention. You allow it to rise and settle instead of letting it explode through your words or actions. This witnessing creates a space, a calm gap, where you can think clearly again. This gap is incredibly powerful because it gives you time to understand the situation for what it truly is. Most problems grow not because of the event itself, but because of the story the mind adds to it. If someone speaks harshly, your mind may interpret it as disrespect. If a plan changes unexpectedly, your mind may interpret it as failure. If you receive criticism, your mind may interpret it as personal attack. Without a pause, these interpretations turn into reactions. But when you respond mindfully, you question your assumptions. You consider the bigger picture. You understand the intentions rather than reacting just to the words. And this shift transforms your response completely. A mindful response also helps preserve relationships. When you react impulsively, you throw your emotions at the other person, whether or not they deserve it. You may say things that you later regret, and even a single heated sentence can leave a deep mark. But when you respond with awareness, you communicate with clarity and compassion. You say what needs to be said without causing unnecessary hurt. You address the issue without attacking the person. This creates trust, respect, and emotional safety, qualities that strengthen every relationship you have. Another important benefit of mindful responding is that it keeps you aligned with your values. In moments of anger or stress, people often behave in ways that do not reflect who they truly are. They act out of temporary emotion rather than long-term character. Later, they feel guilty and disconnected from themselves. But when you respond mindfully, you ensure that your words and actions remain consistent with your principles. You protect your integrity. You stay in control of yourself rather than letting circumstances control you. Mindful responding also leads to better outcomes. When the mind is calm, It sees solutions that a reactive mind cannot. Instead of escalating a conflict, you resolve it. Instead of breaking something, you fix it. Instead of regretting your actions, you feel proud of your maturity. Calmness gives you access to your higher intelligence, the part of you that can think creatively, communicate clearly, and understand deeply. Over time, responding mindfully becomes a habit. You begin to notice triggers early. You start catching yourself before reacting. You become someone who brings peace, not chaos. Someone who understands rather than reacts. Someone who thinks before acting. And in this transformation, you experience one of life's greatest strengths, the ability to stay centered, thoughtful, and wise even when emotions try to pull you in every direction. Simple calming techniques may look ordinary on the surface, but their impact on the mind is extraordinary. Breathing deeply, observing your thoughts, grounding yourself in the present. These practices don't require special tools, a special place, or a perfect moment, yet they have the power to shift your mental and emotional state completely. Many people underestimate them because they seem too simple. But simplicity is often the gateway to profound transformation. The mind doesn't need something complicated to calm down. It needs something consistent, gentle, and grounding. Deep breathing is one of the most powerful techniques because it directly influences the nervous system. When your breath is slow and steady, your body sends a signal to the brain that you are safe. The heart rate slows, the stress response reduces, and the mind begins to relax. In stressful situations, people often breathe rapidly without realizing it. This shallow breathing tells the brain that something is wrong even when it isn't. But when you take slow, conscious breaths, you reverse this cycle. You tell your system, it's okay. You can relax now. This shift feels subtle at first, but with practice, you notice how deeply it influences your mood, thoughts, and reactions. Observing your thoughts is another calming technique that brings immense clarity. The problem is not that you have thoughts the problem is that you merge with them so quickly that you forget you are separate from them. When a stressful thought appears, you become stressed. When a fearful thought appears, you become afraid. But when you observe your thoughts like clouds passing through the sky, they lose their power over you. You realize that thoughts are temporary visitors, not permanent truths. Simply watching them without judgment creates space in your mind. That space gives you a chance to understand, reflect, and respond instead of being pulled into emotional turbulence. Grounding yourself in the present moment is equally powerful. Most of our stress comes from either reliving the past or imagining the future. The mind wanders into stories, expectations, regrets, or fears. But the present moment is usually simple, manageable, and peaceful. When you ground yourself through your breath, your senses, or your awareness, you return to what is actually happening right now, not what the mind is imagining. This often dissolves stress instantly because the present moment rarely contains the chaos that the mind creates. Simple grounding practices like feeling your feet on the floor, noticing the temperature of the air, or placing your hand on your chest help you reconnect with your body. This pulls you out of the swirl of thoughts and into the stability of the present. Your body becomes an anchor that keeps you from drifting into mental storms. Even gratitude is a calming technique in its own gentle way. When you shift your attention to what is going well, even if it's something small, your mind releases tension. Gratitude rewires your thinking. It reminds you that life is not entirely heavy, that blessings exist even in difficult moments. This softens your emotional intensity and brings a sense of balance. These calming techniques work not because they stop life from being difficult, but because they strengthen your ability to navigate difficulty. They act like small tools that prepare your inner world when it starts to crack under pressure. When practiced consistently, they become habits, natural responses your mind turns to automatically. With time, these simple techniques create a powerful inner foundation. You may still experience stress, but you won't drown in it. You may still feel emotions, but you won't be controlled by them. You may still face challenges, but you'll move through them with clarity and calmness. And that gentle shift changes your entire experience of life. Gratitude is often spoken about as a positive habit, but very few people realize how deeply it affects the mind, especially during stressful moments. When you consciously shift your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what is going wrong to what is still right, your inner state transforms. Stress thrives on dissatisfaction, on the mind's tendency to magnify problems and overlook blessings. But gratitude breaks this pattern. It interrupts the cycle of negativity by redirecting your attention towards something nourishing, something stabilizing, something real. And this shift reduces emotional turbulence instantly. When the mind is overwhelmed, it tends to exaggerate difficulties. A small issue feels bigger. A temporary challenge feels permanent. A single unpleasant moment feels like a sign that everything is falling apart. Gratitude acts like a gentle hand pulling you out of that mental spiral. It reminds you that not everything is collapsing. It helps you see that even in difficult times, there are aspects of your life that are steady, supportive, and meaningful. This awareness doesn't erase the challenge, but it reduces the pressure you place on yourself. It brings balance to your inner world and helps you breathe again. One of the reasons gratitude is so calming is that it shifts your emotional frequency. When you focus on what you lack, your energy drops. You become tense, frustrated, worried. But when you acknowledge even one small blessing, a supportive friend, a breath of fresh air, a warm cup of tea, the simple fact that you made it through a hard day, your heart softens, your body relaxes. Gratitude activates feelings of contentment and ease, which naturally lowers stress levels. It becomes almost impossible for your mind to remain in a state of fear when your attention is on something that brings comfort. Gratitude also reconnects you with reality. Stress often comes from imagined scenarios. What could go wrong? What might fail? What may not work? But gratitude brings you back to what is actually happening right now. It grounds you in the truth of your current blessings. When you focus on the present in this way, you stop the mind from dragging you into unnecessary suffering created by future fears or past regrets. You begin to experience life as it is, not as your worries paint it. Another profound benefit of gratitude is that it softens your relationship with challenges. When you practice gratitude regularly, you develop the ability to appreciate life even when things aren't perfect. You stop expecting every moment to go your way. You become more flexible, more accepting, more resilient. Gratitude teaches you that even difficult experiences carry hidden lessons or strengths. It teaches you that a closed door can redirect you to something better, and that not everything that troubles you is meant to break you. Sometimes it is meant to grow you. A clue for beauty of gratitude lies in its simplicity. You don't need anything special to practice it. You can begin anywhere, at any time. You can close your eyes for a few moments and bring to mind one thing you appreciate. You can write down 3 things that went right today. You can pause after a stressful moment and remind yourself of one blessing that remains untouched. These simple acts shift your mental state from tension to tranquility. With consistent practice, gratitude becomes more than a technique. It becomes a lens through which you view life. You start noticing small joys more naturally. You stop taking blessings for granted. You find calmness even in chaos because your mind is trained to look for light. And this shift in perspective doesn't just relax you in the moment. It reshapes your emotional world. It helps you face challenges with a stable heart, a grounded mind, and a peaceful inner state.